Well, I don't know about you. I liked that meditation. Yeah, felt like it came from a different place. And I want to talk more while I'm kind of in that place. On our topic of the temple of surrender. This is probably partly my male conditioning, but it's not always easy to surrender the head to the heart. It's not always easy to feel just how tender and vulnerable we are, right at the core, right at the squishy core. We've spent a lifetime figuring out end runs around that, how to be protected, how to have a persona, how to operate in the world, how to convince everyone we're smart, competent, likable, and so forth. And all that's a little bit out on the periphery compared to this very core felt sense of our being. I was sitting in this chair earlier today, and I just was overcome with this sense that I'm here to look at this ruby chestnut that's blooming outside my window. And something just kind of broke into the get her done mind, and it helps that it's a hot day, you know. But I find there's something about spring. There's something even about a humid day in spring. It's kind of hazy. Things get soft. There's a softness to things. There's a beauty. It's like the colors are a little more pastel somehow with the softness of the humidity. And there's just a kind of voice in me. Don't miss this. Don't miss this, Mark. And there was a need to surrender there to the moment, to the beauty at hand. And to our heads, we think, oh, well, of course, you know, take in the beauty, so forth and so on. But sometimes I find that it's not quite as easy as that. Something in me has to really pause. Something in me has to really open. Something has to be willing to be touched by the beauty at hand. And of course, set aside the get her done kind of mind. It's not that I can't admire beauty as I'm getting stuff done. I certainly can do that. Certainly, especially out in the yard, getting stuff done is a special kind of getting things done. But there's this sense of don't miss it. Years ago, I had the good fortune, the really special fortune to be able to do a 3-month silent retreat. It's in 1983. I arranged my life, took a leave of absence from graduate school, saved my money from working summers. And I did this 3-month silent retreat. There's so many things I remember about it. But what I remember is day after day, just being there to notice. Of course, there's a lot to notice about the inner life and the states that one goes through, but there's a lot to notice about being in this beautiful place in New England, where Insight Meditation Society is, and drinking in for 3 months a New England fall, moving into winter. You know, if you live in New England, and most of us do that are on this call anyway, um, you've been through probably a number of New England winters, I mean, New England falls. And no doubt there's been moments to stop and admire the color, the quality of the air, the drifting leaves. But there was something just amazing about having this 3 month period where I really had nothing to do but meditate. And meditate included just noticing and becoming sensitive to what's here, being touched by what's here. I took so many walks. I had to because my knees hurt, I have to say. I needed them. I don't remember how many hours we meditated every day. And then after a while, they just encouraged us to do more. They stopped having a schedule at all. And I was a young man and I was pretty competitive. I sat in this row with 3 other guys. And even though we didn't talk about it, we all like compared, and in a good way, in some ways, you know, that we would sit and we wouldn't stop sitting because we knew as soon as we would, everybody else would too. And so it became kind of, I wouldn't say a contest exactly, but it was this kind of camaraderie. All right, okay, an hour's gone by. Okay, an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, an hour and a half, 2 hours. Anyway, I'm not sure how helpful that was, really. But it touched my heart. It touched my heart to be with these other guys. And we were, I mean, it probably improved our concentration in a certain way. It didn't help my knees, I'll tell you. Back then, I thought a good yogi always sits cross legged. So I sat cross legged. Yep. There's so many moments of just standing and staring. And I'm still doing it. And I'm encouraging you to do it too. To just walk out your door and just drink it in. I'm not sure, you know, that there's a better way to spend a life than taking it in. Taking in the face of your beloved, beloveds. We're kind of here to be together. That's the weird thing about this class, of course, because there's something to learn. You're here to learn. You're here to change. You're here to develop. But what we're actually developing is the capacity to be, to drop into here and now in a deep way. We're conditioned in this world to be productive, to kind of get on the treadmill and, you know, make money, be good to some, be good for something, whatever that is. And there's all sorts of like work involved with raising a family and dealing with parents who are aging, dealing with friends who are aging or friends who are having a hard time. And it can look like a lot of stuff, but sometimes I just let it settle as being together. We're here to be together. Makes it kind of simple. And it kind of it erases, it surrenders, I could even say, that notion of my time, quite the way that we operate, of what I want to do with my time. Whose time is it anyway? So being and being together. I'm so glad I have a dog. You know, dogs are so intelligent in ways sometimes that humans aren't. you know, they they just want to be together. Their instinct is to be together and to be attuned, not just be in physical proximity, to be like tuned in to where the other person is at. I sometimes I feel like I'm just emotionally naked to my dog. She can smell my state of mind, you know? She and she cares about it, it matters to her. It's very sweet. I have a sense of my dog's heart. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I try to learn from her. And she helps me to slow down. Like maybe there's nothing more important to do right now than scratch you behind the ears. When I come to my deathbed, I will not regret the time I spent scratching Kiva behind the ears or stroking under her chin or scratching the place she really likes, which is like on her rump, right where the tail goes out, or some kind of itchy spot right there. It's just maneuvers herself right there to be there, And sure, I'm doing something useful. But sort of like in the meditation where I just invited your heart to be open, to be tender. I really think that's what we're here for. And we got to get things done, you know? And sometimes we have to be a hard ass. Let's not forget, you know, I'm looking out this other window and there's all these bumblebees that are just like having a great time with this Enkianthus bush that's there, that's blooming right now. And there's a hummingbird too. They're all just kind of like doing their thing. There's so much life. There's so much green. I suppose even the trees are trying to get stuff done. They're trying to photosynthesize, they're trying to get enough sugar to grow, put some in their roots so they can survive, produce those, you know, crab apples, thinking of the tree that's right there, the blossoms and the fruits. So they have something to do here. But, once in a while, I just have this feeling that plants are blissful, that they're conscious, they have an experience, and the experience is one of bliss. In fact, I think most of the creatures around us, when they're not actually threatened, there's something blissful there. tune into. But the plants, especially, what else can it be like to eat light? You know, and we can eat light. Looking out at the green and the softness of the clouds and the blue in the humid air, and we can drink it in. It's like they're having a party. The whole planet, all the creatures. It's funny because, I'm conditioned to look at it all as survival, you know, nature, tooth and claw. And there's truth to that, I suppose it's no fun to get eaten. But I'm also in awe of how I don't sense that creatures spend all their time in anxiety the way some humans do. There's a openness. So there are times when I feel like I just want to join the party. And just join the party and sink into something luscious that's about just being here. And there's this grumpy part of my mind that like looks for what's wrong. It doesn't take too long to find the things in the body that are wrong. They have a way of putting out signals. And what needs to be repaired in the house and so sometimes it takes a certain kind of presence. It really takes presence to kind of say no to that thought train. And it can feel like an effort sometimes to come up with a positive thought. So I don't kind of teach that sort of meditation, let's have a lot of positive thoughts, because that isn't actually how I experience it. I experience this kind of right in the pause, kind of like right in the catching the let's look at what's wrong, and something just kind of settles. And there's presence. And right in the presence, there's an openness. There's an openness to being touched by what is, to being in love with what is. May not have access to it all the time. Believe me, I don't. I sometimes wish I did. And this is kind of my way to talk about surrendering to love. Love's a funny word. I use it, and what do people feel like they have to pony up to? I've got to be in service to everybody all the time. Is that diversion of love? Is it, I've got to feel this something pouring out of my heart? It seems so much simpler in some way, just this quiet kind of tender presence. And when I just settle as that, as just this tender presence, it's funny, people are beautiful. I'm beautiful. The whole human mass is beautiful. And it is a mess. There's things going wrong all the time. And it's from that place that I say there's nothing wrong here. That simple, tender presence, which has with it this kind of willingness to be with things just because they are. You know, when I look at my granddaughter, it's so easy to come up with "aw, sweetie." You know, that kind of tenderness, it's so available. But why not? Why not bring it right here? You know? Why not bring it? Why not bring it home to this body and to the adults in your life? It's funny, you know, in all of our kind of grumpy weirdness, there's a lovability there, you know? Every human being, every human being has this vulnerable core, even the ones that are just trying like hell not to have that be seen, you know? Just like fighting with everything they've got to not ever look that way to anybody. It's still there. There's not a person on the planet it's not hard to be a human being. Even if you've come to a really happy place, there are still challenges. So, being, being together, just inviting that tender presence, which kind of means surrendering the protection that's around you, letting that kind of fall away for even a moment. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. And all these bumblebees are kind of flying around a flowering bush. It's pretty easy, you know? When something's just gone wrong that you're in charge of, not so easy. When someone's just said something harsh to you, not so easy. But it's still kind of aw sweetie. All right.